Hey everybody, how you doing? So now we're going to get into the exciting part of carving out our pumpkin to get the jaws to snap and the lights to light up. And so you can see here, we're using some of the large slash mini-ish pumpkins, which I know is kind of an oxymoron, but you want to get the smaller kind of pumpkins, but the ones that are kind of fat, so it makes it easy to carve. And so we've kind of got a selection here with various types of pumpkins. That's going to be your first step, is to select and pick your pumpkin. You can use different kind of styles, different gourds if you want to do some different kind of unique builds and designs, but that's your first step to get your pumpkin figured out. So I'm going to go ahead and just pick one here. I'm going to grab this one, and we're going to move on to the next step of the prep work. All right, so our next step is, obviously we have our Arduino here that we need, and we are going to use the breadboard just for simplicity's sake. So this is something you're going to have to think about your backdrop and your decoration if you want to hide this so this is not seen. But the parts that you're going to need, at least for the basics of our snapping jaw robot, is we're going to need our servo motor. We're going to need at least 2 LED lights. They can be big like this or the smaller ones, whatever you have lying around. Obviously your Arduino. Your breadboard. We're going to need some extra wire, and the last piece that we're going to need is we're going to need some resistors. So our first step that we're going to do is we are actually going to take some wire and we're going to pull it out and we're going to cut, so that way when we go to put the eyes into the pumpkin and it pulls out the back, we can actually hide this by getting it away so it's not so close. It doesn't have to be like this. We can actually disguise this a little far ways away. So I'm going to go ahead now and cut these wires and go on to our next step. So I have cut 4 wires. I've got 2 red and I've got 2 black. Remember, the colors don't matter. This just helps for the organization process. And I've cut them about 12 inches long. You can make these any length you want. For the sake of this video, for your first time, I wouldn't go much further. And what we need to do is we need to strip the ends. And so I've just got some wire strippers here, and we're just going to go on in here and we're going to strip just the tips here on both sides, and we're going to do this to all 4 of them. So go ahead and do that now. All right, so now our next step, once we got these stripped, we're going to take our resistors. I just have a 220 resistor here, and I'm actually, just to make it easier, I'm just going to wrap the resistor around the tip here so it kind of holds on. We're actually going to solder that here in just a minute. So I'm going to add these resistors to each of the red, and the reason we do this is so our LED lights don't burn out so fast. It actually kind of helps make life easier. So we're going to do that there, and then we're going to go ahead and solder these. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our solder iron and get your settings to the position you want. Obviously be very careful you don't burn yourself. This is very, very hot. I've got my, you can't see, I have my wire and my resistor right here, and I'm simply now just going to go ahead and solder these together, make sure there's a nice solid connection. Okay, so now our next step now, once we've got our resistors soldered onto both sides, we're then going to go ahead and do the same thing, but now for the LED lights. So I'm just going to stick the positive with the long leg of the LED, and then I'm going to do the short leg with the ground wire. So I'm just going to twist these, and then I'm going to solder these together just like I did the resistor. So just like that, and then go ahead and solder and do that for both lights. You can always test your solder by go ahead and pulling, making sure that they are snug, and we're good. So we'll go ahead and do that for the other light. Okay, so now our next step here is on my Arduino. I have a wire going from the 5 volt over here to the breadboard on the positive, and then I've got my ground going to the negative. So that powers up this whole grid here, and I'll show you the schematics in the video so you can see a better view of just this. But now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and test our wire. So I'm going to put my positive, the one with the resistor, the red, into the red or the positive on the breadboard. and then my ground over there. And we've got success there with the red eye. And then I'm gonna do the same thing over here with my other LED light just to make sure we're in business. I'm gonna plug these guys in here. And there we go. We're in business here. We got both lights. I got a white eye and a red eye. I thought I'd mix up the LED colors. So those are good. And for the sake of the basic robot, we're just gonna keep the lights on the whole time. We can get into some further coding, which I'll show you those options here in a little bit to power those on. So the eyes are good. So I'm gonna unplug those. And next is to get ready for the servo. All right, so I've just plugged in the servo and we're running just the basic servo sweep program that comes with the Arduino, which I will show you here on the split screen so you know what I'm talking about, just to make sure my servo motor is working. And this is just going from 0 to 180, and I've got my black wire, the ground, plugged into the ground. My white wire is going to my signal, which for me right now with the sample program is pin 9, and then the red is my 5 volt, so that's over here connected to the 5 volt. You might have a servo that looks a little bit different. It could look with these colors. In this case, brown is your ground, red is your 5 volt, and then the orange is your white wire or your signal wire. So you want to double check to make sure your servo is working. I've got that going there. It looks like it's going just fine at right at 100, about 90 degrees in this particular code, back and forth. So now we're going to go ahead and carve the pumpkin and then get the servo all dialed into the pumpkin. Okay, so now we're going to take a break from the servo and the LED. Now that we know we got our lights working, we know we have a servo that functions, now it's time to get our pumpkin ready so we can insert those items to the pumpkin. So what you're going to do is you want to take a marker, whatever marking utensil you want, and you're going to want to carve out where you want your teeth. And so I'm going to go through here and carve out where I want my teeth, going all the way through here. And I think that'll be enough for the mouth. And then I'm just going to kind of run this back along this way because I don't need teeth all the way. And I just want to get almost straight to the back of where the main of the mouth is going to be. So it's right in here. And what I want to do is I want to make a lip. And this is going to be a groove for our wires to hide out of. So then I'm going to go ahead and do that and just connect. So there's my basic outline of my pumpkin. A little groove, a little slat, the teeth in the front, and then we'll go ahead and start to carve. All right, so the next step is just to get your carving tool, whatever it is that you use at the store. We're just using one that we bought at the local drugstore, and we'll go ahead and just carve this out. It's pretty straightforward. If you've never carved a pumpkin, just take your time, follow the line. The good thing about a small pumpkin is there's not a whole lot of guts on the inside. Sometimes there is, but not always. So we'll go ahead and just get these grooves going here. And you can use whatever kind of design that you want. I mean, I'm doing the teeth here, but you can use whatever technique you want. The jaws, you know, the more decisive the snapping jaws are, the kind of cooler it looks. And you want your teeth to be kind of big. So I'm kind of going over my lines a little bit because I want my teeth to really close, open and close, and really make it obvious what's going on. So the lines are just there, just as a guide. But I'm going to extend these a little bit here as I go through. So we'll go ahead now and just continue this pattern. Okay, so once you cut it through, let's see if we can break through, and you just want to be careful. You don't want to break any of your teeth. And we open it up. Ooh, yummy! So we'll go ahead and just scoop these out. I'm going to get a spoon and a bag. So we'll go ahead and scoop these out here real quick. So I probably should put the plastic bag underneath, but I'm gonna do that now. And I'm just using a plastic spoon. There's not a whole lot in here. I'm just gonna get all these guts out because you don't need them in there. And that's where your servo and all your good stuff's gonna be. So we'll just kind of spoon this stuff out here a little bit. And this one stinks.
Can I try one, Dad?
Well, there's that one. I'm gonna get this other one out here.
There's the top.
Okay. So now what we've got here, we want to make sure everything still kind of lines up good. And our groove will allow our jaws to kind of open and close here. Chomp, chomp.
No, Dad, you don't.
Chomp,
you don't
chomp.
see it. You don't see it.
So now we can see that our jaws will be able to open and close like this. Chomp, 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 chomp. So now what we want to do now is we're going to add the lights for the eyes, and then we'll clean up the back and everything else. So let's go ahead and now get this garbage away and get the lights going. Okay, so now what I want to do is, I know this is my back, and so I want to get my eyes perfect with the back. So as I look here, I'm just going to kind of eyeball that right here is kind of the middle. And so then I know that I'm going to want one eye right here. Let's just stick the other one right there. So now I'm just going to go ahead and carve out some holes. If you have like a cordless drill, you could just drill out with a drill bit, but it's really not that big a deal. Carve out the eye holes. There you go. So now we got the eye holes. Now let's go ahead and get the LED lights put on in. So there is our pumpkin with the eyes. Now let's stick the glow-in-the-dark eyes. So before I stick the LED lights in, we want to make sure that these legs don't touch. Because if they touch, it's going to short out the lights, and then things aren't going to work. And so if you have electric tape, that'd be really helpful. I can't seem to find mine, so I'm just going to use some strips of duct tape, because that'll be just fine. And so I've just got a piece here, and I'm just going to split this in half. And I just need just a little piece here. Just enough to cover up the legs. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of seal that bad boy up just to be safe. That also keeps all the gunk of the pumpkin off the wires, causing any issues there as well. And then I'll do the same for this. And then once you have that, we'll go ahead and stick it through the hole. So Ava, my trusty partner here, is going to help me. We're going to take the, jab him in the eye. Oh, my eye! Oh, my eye! It hurts so bad! Oh!
And you can put this.
Oh! Eye! Oh! Oh, I can see much better now. And we'll just leave that in the back. So now we'll go ahead and do the same thing for the other eyeball.
Ready? Chomp, 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 people, chomp, chomp.
All right, so we'll go ahead and jab this one through once you get the other light in there. Pumpkin's making some horrendous noises. It's our own Halloween movie.
I can feel so much better.
Okay.
That's
So now what we'll do is we'll just go ahead
weird, right?
and we'll test the LED lights just to make sure that they're still working. So we'll go ahead and get those plugged into the board. Okay, so we've got it back in action. Let's go ahead and test and make sure that this eye works. All right, Ava, hold off on the Lego. We'll go ahead, got the red working still. Now we're gonna go ahead and try the black here and make sure we're in business, and then we can move on to the servo. Boom, there we are. Now we got two good eyes working. Red and clear. All right, so next step is to take a look at the servo. So what we want to do now is just load up the servo sweep, the example program. You could write your own, but we're just going to use that just because I know everybody will have access to it. And we're going to run that program and adjust the dials just so we can get this arm moving almost in a 90-degree pattern, so we can make sure that we have what we need, and then we'll get it modified to actually lift the jaw. So I'm just going to stick that in there. I'm going to go through and just turn this on here, and so make sure I get these wired in right. 5 volt, and then I'm going to throw this over here on pin 9. Okay, so you can see that it's going backwards, so I want to do a couple of things. I can either adjust the piece that I put on there, which I think I'm going to do. So I'll just flip this guy around. We'll try that. There we go. So that'll work in the mouth. Now I just don't need that drastic, so I'll adjust this a little bit here and get this to fit within the mouth. So now we're just going to play around with this and get this secure and locked in and see if that'll be enough. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and get this servo secured in, so it actually is going to sit tight. And then I'm going to cut a popsicle stick that I know will reach the inside of the mouth. So when I put this in like this, it doesn't make any movement. So I'm going to take a popsicle stick. So I'm going to look at this here and just kind of make a judgment that I need it right around here. And you're going to have to kind of just play around with this a little bit. It's not going to be perfect. It just takes some trial and error. So I'm going to go ahead and just hot glue, that piece onto the bridge and see if it works. Okay, so just going to put a little dab of glue on this stick here, and then attach the popsicle stick, and then we should be in business. So pretty simple. Dab of glue, popsicle stick. That's that simple. Okay, so my next step now is I got this in here. I need to get it locked in so the servo motor doesn't move. So I'm just going to use a paper clip. I'm going to trim it, and just get it where I'm going to push down into the pumpkin and kind of just jab it. So I don't need a whole lot. I need just enough to print it. So I'm just going to clip, and then I'm just going to press this down. Like I said, it's just beta at this point. So I just want enough of the popsicle or the paper clip to hold that in place, and then we're going to attach the top and see how it works. So I got the paper clip just pushed in. Like I said, this is just beta. We're going to go ahead and stick my pumpkin head on. Get everything kind of lined up here with the groove. And then we'll go ahead and test. Now you can see already that I think my piece might be a little too long, so we might have to do some trimming here. So you can see that it's just a little off. So a couple things that we got to do. This is loose, and we got to get the back cemented in. So we're going to use some toothpicks and a couple of modifications, and then we should be in business. Alright guys, so I wanted to save you a bunch of time and just kind of show you what I did to my pumpkin to get it to work. A couple things that I had to troubleshoot to make this happen. And the first thing that I had to do was get this piece just right, this popsicle piece. And what I had to do, I had to like cut a little groove up in the mouth. It's going to depend on your pumpkin. There was not much up here for me to work with, so I just had to clip out some pieces. I know it's kind of hard to see. But I had to really get in there and groove some out so the popsicle stick would actually stick, so the jaw could actually open and close. The other thing I did in the back is I had to strip away some of the bottom. So I just took box cutters, you can use whatever, and I just stripped some of that down. This allows the wires just to kind of hang down nicely, make his mullet look nice and pretty. And the last thing I had to do was add some support to the sides. And so I kind of got it jabbing out the side here a little bit, but I just clipped the paper clip in half and set it straight, so half the paper clip's in here and here, as well as over here. So that just holds it down and gives it like a hinge, so it wedges pretty well. Then the last thing I did in here for the servo motor, I'm not going to pull it apart real far, I took some wire, and I just used some wire that I had sitting around, just some cheap 22 gauge magnetic wire. And I basically just put it on each side of the servo motor. And then what I did down below underneath is I took my carving knife and I jabbed from the inside, right, like real tight next to the servo motor on each side, a slit. And I pushed the wire through, and then underneath I just twisted it real tight. This just makes the servo nice and snug to the ground. And I actually just used some pliers here and just twisted it so that servo motor isn't going anywhere. It's not going to move. It's going to stay right there where I want it to. And then once I get it all set up and rocking and rolling, I program my servo code, which I'll show you here in just a minute, and we should be in business. And then there you have it. Jaw snapping pumpkin. Better watch out, he might get you. Once you got this, then it's time to get groovy. Can we make his eyes blink? Can we add a photo resistor? Can we add a ultrasonic? The sky's the limit. So let's start thinking about how we can hack this bad boy.